So you're an older man, maybe in your 40s, 50s, or even 60s. You've been through a lot, you've seen the world, built a life, perhaps weathered a few heartbreaks along the way, and then, out of nowhere, this young woman appears. She's vibrant, full of life, maybe a little wild, a little unpredictable. And for some reason she gives you attention. Not just casual small talk, but real, focused attention. And suddenly, whether you're ready to admit it or not, you feel something awaken inside you, a spark you haven't felt in a long time. It's flattering, it's exciting, and it's exactly the point where most men begin to make subtle yet critical mistakes they don't even realize they're making. Because here's the truth. When an older man is drawn to a younger woman, something very specific tends to happen. He forgets who he already is. He forgets that all the years, all the pain, the victories, the lessons, that's where his true power lives. But in that sudden rush of dopamine, he begins to shift. He starts adjusting himself. He softens his edges, tries to squeeze into her world rather than standing firmly in his own. And that's when everything flips. She stops seeing a man and starts seeing a guy who's trying to impress her, trying to be cool, trying to win her over. And just like that, the attraction starts to dissolve. This video isn't about judging anyone. It's about clarity. It's about helping you hold on to your dignity, your masculinity, and your self-respect in moments of temptation, admiration, or even genuine emotional connection. We're going to break down what not to do when you're dealing with a younger woman, and how a stoic, grounded man, one who is truly in possession of himself, approaches this entire situation differently. Because this isn't just dating advice, these are life strategies. So if you're tired of feeling confused, manipulated, or thrown off track by someone who hasn't even lived half the life you have, this is your wake-up call. You didn't come here by accident. I know you need this. Stick around, because by the time we're done, you'll clearly see where most men fall, and how you can rise simply by doing less, not more. Number 1. Don't try to be her age. Pain is the catalyst. You're not her peer. One of the biggest mistakes older men make when interacting with younger women is trying to shrink themselves into her world. They try to speak like her, dress like her, or pretend they understand her pop culture references. And most of the time, it's not ill-intentioned. It comes from a sincere desire to connect, to find common ground. But here's what actually happens. You lose the very essence that made you intriguing in the first place. The moment you try to act like her equal in age and lifestyle, she stops seeing you as grounded, composed, and experienced, and starts seeing someone who's trying way too hard. Even if you think you're being subtle, she can feel it. Especially younger women, they have a radar for authenticity. When you mimic her lifestyle in an attempt to be relatable, it doesn't feel off because of the age gap. It feels off because of the insecurity underneath. The truth? Your age isn't a weakness. It's your strength. You've lived, you've failed, you've endured, and you've risen again. You carry a presence that only time and hardship can create, something she doesn't even fully understand yet. That's what draws her in. Not your knowledge of the latest TikTok trend or your ability to quote her favorite Netflix show. Too many older men feel they have to keep up, but in reality, the most attractive thing you can do is slow down, be still, be rooted. Let her burn off her youthful energy while you remain centered. Let me give you a real-world scenario. You're on a date, and she gushes about some 23-year-old influencer she follows. You could fake it. You could pretend you know who it is, scroll through your phone and laugh along. Or you could simply smile and say, I don't follow that stuff much. I prefer conversations that don't disappear in 24 hours. One sentence. That's strength, that's distinction, that's mystery. And it jolts her, in the best way. Not because you're trying to be like her, but because you're reminding her that you're not. That's the paradox. The second you stop trying to be relatable is when you become magnetic. Number 2, don't become her emotional sponge. The power of complete silence. Another trap older men fall into is becoming the emotional sponge, absorbing all her chaos, confusion, and unresolved wounds under the illusion of being supportive. It usually starts innocently. She opens up about her past, maybe about a toxic ex, distant parents, or how she's trying to work on herself. And because you're older, emotionally mature, you listen. You want to help. You feel like you can be the anchor she hasn't found in younger men. But slowly, the dynamic shifts. You become her therapist, her emotional dumping ground, her midnight call when she's overwhelmed. And deep down, you think this is building intimacy. You believe, if I'm the one who truly understands her, she'll choose me. But here's the truth. That's not romantic connection. It's emotional outsourcing. Younger women, often unconsciously, gravitate toward older men for stability. But if you confuse emotional caretaking with attraction, you'll get stuck in the most frustrating zone possible, the friend zone, dressed up as intimacy. You'll hear about her heartbreaks, her bad decisions, her mental spirals, but none of it will spark respect or desire. Why? Because a Stoic man doesn't entangle himself in someone else's emotional chaos just to feel needed. He brings calm by being calm. He listens, but doesn't rescue. He offers wisdom, but without becoming entangled. There's a massive difference between being emotionally available and being emotionally absorbent. One is grounded, the other is needy, disguised as kindness. Imagine she calls you crying about a rough situation. Instead of diving into fix-it mode, you simply say, "That sounds like a lot. I hope you give yourself the space to figure it out." That one sentence signals everything. You're present, but not caught. She feels seen, but she can't pull you into her emotional storm. That is Stoicism in action. It's not about being cold. It's about knowing where your peace ends and her chaos begins. A man who's mastered himself never lets someone else's turbulence shake his foundation, no matter how beautiful the storm looks. 3. Starve her of your attention. There's a silent killer in the dynamic between older men and younger women, and it's chasing her validation. It doesn't always look like desperation at first. It starts small. You give her one too many compliments. You wait longer for her to reply. You begin to loosen your standards just to stay in her good graces. You adjust your tone. You water down your truth. All for one thing, her approval. But here's the harsh truth. The moment you begin seeking her validation, the attraction starts to decay. You're no longer a man in her eyes. You become a performer. You stop leading and start pleasing. You're no longer rooted in your masculine energy. You're orbiting her emotional world, hoping for gravity. That's not power, that's erosion. And for a younger woman, someone still discovering who she is, this quickly becomes a game of power. Not always consciously, but instinctively, she senses when you lose your center. When you bend instead of stand firm, she doesn't admire your flexibility. She begins to test you. She'll pull back. Go cold, just to see if you'll chase her again. Understand this. You don't earn her respect by being agreeable. You earn it by being anchored. Stoicism teaches that a man's value isn't determined by how others perceive him, but by how he sees himself. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Flip that mindset. When you stop craving her approval, you regain your power. Let's make this practical. You're texting a younger woman. She takes 5 hours to reply. You notice, but you don't react. You don't double text. You don't send a meme to reignite the conversation. You simply return to your life, training, building, living. If she responds, great. If she doesn't, you're still in control, because you never gave away your center. The moment you chase her validation, you lose your edge. And for older men, this edge is everything. Your value doesn't lie in being entertaining or trendy. It lies in being grounded, immovable. That's what makes her curious. That's what pulls her in, your calm, stoic presence set against her chaotic energy. Here's the deeper issue. Many older men chase validation out of fear of irrelevance. Society whispers, "You're too old to compete." So when a younger woman shows interest, they overcommit. They tell themselves, "If I lose this chance, I might never get another." That's not truth. That's scarcity. And that scarcity leads to a bigger cost, self-betrayal. You start agreeing with opinions you don't hold. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You tolerate disrespect to keep things peaceful. But here's the paradox. Peace that costs you your identity isn't peace. It's self-erasure. And women, especially younger ones, can sense it. They're not attracted to men who mold themselves around them. They're drawn to men who hold their shape, who teach not through words, but through energy. When you stop chasing her validation, you give her something far more powerful. Something to earn. Let me tell you a story about Tom. Tom is 48, divorced and financially stable. He began dating a 28-year-old woman. In the beginning, it was electric. But then he started overcompensating, planning extravagant dates, showering her with praise, avoiding conflict just to stay in her favor. And slowly, she pulled back. She became less engaged, less respectful. One day she told him, "I just don't feel the spark anymore." What she really meant was, "You lost your edge." After the breakup, Tom changed course. He stopped performing. He hit the gym again, expanded his business, realigned with his purpose. Months later, she reached out, but Tom had become a different man. He no longer needed her validation. He had returned to the man he should have been from the start, and she felt it. That is the power of not chasing. That is Stoic strength in motion. You don't need her applause. You don't need her agreement. You don't even need her to stay. You just need to stay centered. And when you do, she will either rise to meet you or fall away. Either way, you win. Comment below, "I lead from center" if you're done performing and ready to live in truth. And don't go anywhere, because what happens when you stop trying to impress might just flip everything in your favor. 4. Emotional detachment is dominance. Don't try to impress. Lead instead. This might hit hard, but let it settle. You're not here to impress her. Modern dating tells you otherwise. Flashy dinners, clever texts, strategies to win her over. But if you're an older man dealing with a younger woman, trying to impress her will drain your presence and demolish your edge. Why? Because the second you shift from leading to performing, you surrender your masculinity. You make her the judge, and yourself the contestant. That subtle change in dynamic flips everything. You're no longer holding the frame. You're asking her to. The dinner reservations you scrambled to make, the shirt you bought hoping she'd notice, the carefully worded compliments you hesitated to send, she can feel all of it. Not in the details, but in the energy behind them. And that energy says, "I hope this works." That's not attractive. That's insecure. Now let's be clear. Leadership isn't domination. It's not barking orders or acting superior. It's about direction, presence, and emotional stability. And for a younger woman, especially one used to chaotic, inconsistent men, that kind of grounded leadership is rare. It's what she truly craves beneath the surface. You show leadership not by being loud, but by being decisive. You say, "Let's do this," instead of, "What do you want to do?" You move with certainty, not arrogance. You don't ask for permission to be masculine, you embody it. Let's make this real. You're meeting her for coffee. Most older men try to impress right away, talking about careers, expensive toys, flashy experiences. But you sit down, relaxed, composed. You ask about her values. You listen, not to agree or disagree, but to understand. You're not trying to win, you're trying to connect. You don't lead with flash, you lead with calm. And what happens? She leans in. Not because you dazzled her, but because you grounded her. That's the secret. You're not chasing her attention, you're commanding her respect. Stoicism drills this in deep. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." And leadership extends beyond decisions. It's emotional leadership too. She gets emotional, you remain steady. She tests your limits, you uphold them. She tries to start drama, you disengage, not to punish her, but because peace is your standard. Because the Stoic man isn't looking for approval, he lives by principle. And in dating, it's the same. You don't shape-shift to match what she wants, you live your truth. And if she aligns with it, great. If not, you keep walking. Here's what most men forget. Your job isn't to impress, it's to reveal who you are through how you speak, how you hold eye contact, how you say no without flinching. That's leadership. That's real masculine energy. It's not loud, but it's unforgettable. And leadership extends beyond decisions. It's emotional leadership too. She gets emotional, you remain steady. She tests your limits, you uphold them. She tries to start drama, you disengage. Not to punish her, but because peace is your standard. When you lead with that kind of stability, you give her something incredibly rare, a man she can trust, even when she's unsure of herself. The men who impress might win her attention for one night. The men who lead, they stay in her mind for months, because they gave her an experience of real polarity, masculine grounding that doesn't beg for applause. So stop rehearsing lines, stop Googling the perfect text, stop trying to win her like she's a prize. You're not a contestant, you're the frame. Comment below, "I move with direction," if you're ready to stop performing and start leading. And don't miss what's next, because once you stop over-investing too early, everything else begins to fall into place. 5. rebuild in the shadows. Don't project long-term fantasies too soon. You just met her. She's attractive, she's young, she's giving you attention, and suddenly your mind races ahead. You start imagining where this could go. Vacations, meeting her family, maybe even marriage. You see her next to you at dinner parties in your future home. None of it has happened yet, but emotionally, you're already deep in it. That's dangerous. Because the moment you start projecting a future, you stop seeing the present clearly. You stop observing and start imagining. And that imagination becomes a trap. Why? Because you begin reacting to the fantasy version of her, not the actual person in front of you. Every red flag? You call it a phase. Every value conflict? We'll work through it. You ignore signs that matter because you're hooked on the idea of what she could be. And she can feel it, not through your words, but your energy. She feels the weight of your hope, the pressure of your projections. And for a younger woman, that isn't romantic. It's suffocating. She didn't sign up to be your forever. She's just getting to know you. Let's bring in some Stoic wisdom. Epictetus taught, when you are about to put your hand to something, remind yourself what it is. Dating isn't about building fantasy, it's about gathering data. Early on, your job isn't to dream, it's to observe, to see clearly. When you rush ahead, you lose presence. And presence is everything. You overlook patterns, you excuse disrespect, you ignore immaturity. Why? Because you've already built a future in your mind, and it's too painful to admit it might not happen. And that leads to overcommitting too fast. You change your routine for her. Skip workouts, cancel business meetings, shift your life, all for the hope of something real. But here's the truth. Hope without observation is delusion. And for older men, that kind of delusion is costly. It's not just your feelings at stake, it's your time, your energy, your mission. Let me tell you about Dean. Dean's 52, intelligent, accomplished. He starts seeing a woman in her mid-20s. She's magnetic, fun, spontaneous. Within 2 weeks, he tells his friends, she might be the one. He adjusts his life for her, cancels trips, skips meetings, even shifts his finances to build a future with her. But she wasn't showing the same level of investment. She canceled last minute, ghosted him occasionally, said one thing, did another, and Dean didn't confront it, he romanticized it. He told himself, she just needs time. 3 months later, she ghosted him. No explanation. Gone. And Dean wasn't heartbroken because he lost her. He was devastated because he lost the future he imagined. That's what projection does. It builds castles in your head that reality can't hold up. So what's the Stoic move? Stay rooted. Stay curious. But don't commit too fast. Watch patterns. Don't chase potential. Slow your emotional pace, even if the physical chemistry is intense. Don't imagine a decade together before you've seen how she handles stress, conflict, or disappointment. Attraction is easy. Compatibility is tested. Focus on how she behaves in the now, because that's where the truth is. Comment below, I live in the real, if you're done fantasizing and ready to see clearly. And don't go anywhere, because when you stop being her option, something powerful happens that most men never learn in time. 6. Attraction isn't chaste. Number 6. Never allow yourself to become her backup option or emotional placeholder. Here's a difficult truth many men shy away from. Sometimes you're not the central figure in her life. You're her just in case, her maybe, her emotional support when the man she truly desires isn't available. You turn into her therapist, her source of entertainment, her emotional safety net, but never her true priority. If you're not cautious, you'll begin to misinterpret attention as affection. She'll message you when she's bored, call when she's upset, and flirt just enough to keep you around, but without ever committing. One day she's affectionate, the next she vanishes for a weekend and reappears like nothing happened. You make excuses. She's busy, she's figuring herself out. But deep inside, you feel it. You're not her first choice. You're her convenience. And that's never the position a man should accept. Here's the truth. Women don't fall for men they can lean on. They fall for men they look up to. If she knows you'll always be available regardless of what she gives back, her appreciation for you diminishes, not out of cruelty, but because people naturally lose respect for what's always accessible, especially when it costs them nothing. Stoicism teaches us to value ourselves and distance ourselves from anything that disrespects our principles. As Seneca wrote, associate with those who will make a better man of you. The inverse also holds. Avoid those who reduce you to a lesser version of yourself. Being a fallback option quietly drains your masculine energy. Bit by bit, you start making yourself smaller. You become more agreeable, less truthful. You filter your words so she won't pull away. You keep showing up, hoping one day she'll recognize your worth. But here's the paradox. Women don't recognize your worth when you minimize yourself. They sense your value when you draw clear boundaries and stand by them. Take this example. Paul, 47, began talking to a 26-year-old woman he met through mutual friends. She was captivating, intelligent, unpredictable. They'd meet up every couple of weeks, share meaningful conversations, enjoy flirty chemistry, but she never made anything official. She'd vanish for days, then call crying about another guy. And Paul? He always answered. He thought being dependable would eventually win her over. But in her eyes, he was just someone to vent to, a man to process her feelings with until someone else texted. Then came the comment, "You're like my safe place." It sounded affectionate, but Paul realized it wasn't romantic, it was convenient. That night, he cut off contact. 3 months later, she reached out again, but her tone had changed. She felt the shift. She sensed that Paul wasn't there to catch her anymore. And that shifted the dynamic entirely. Why? Because Paul had reclaimed his position. He stopped being her emotional crutch. He became a standard. You don't become desirable by being constantly accessible. You become desirable by being selective with where you place your energy. You're not here to be a rebound, a placeholder, or the guy she vents to about someone else. You're here to stand for real connection and walk away from anything less. So what does that look like in practice? If she only calls when she's upset, but never includes you when she's happy, pull back. If she texts you when she's lonely but avoids commitment, stop responding. If she treats you like an emotional sponge, absorb nothing. Let it pass. You don't need to block her or lash out. Just quietly and firmly withdraw the privilege of your presence. No drama, no noise, because your energy isn't cheap. Women don't regret losing the man who was always around. They regret losing the man who knew his worth and walked away the moment things became unbalanced. That's the Stoic approach. Calm, clear, detached. And if she returns, it won't be because you pleaded. It'll be because your absence made more impact than your presence ever did. Comment below, "I won't be her option," if you're done holding space for people who won't hold you. And keep watching, because what happens when you finally prioritize your mission over her emotions will change everything. 7. Your indifference is her mirror. Number 7. Never abandon your mission for her. This is the point where even the strongest men can falter. Not when she pulls away, not when she tests your patience, but when things begin to feel emotionally significant, when she starts to seem special, and you begin to think she's worth adjusting for. And little by little, you begin to shift. You skip your workouts, you delay professional goals, you shelve that business idea. You pull away from your circle, spend more time texting, rearrange your life to fit her comfort. It starts small. It feels innocent, even romantic. But here's what's really happening. You're stepping off your path to accommodate hers. And that's where everything begins to unravel. Because younger women, especially those attracted to older men, don't want to be your mission. They want to feel safe within a man who's already on one. They want to be invited into your world, not become the center of it. Masculinity isn't about control, it's about direction. The more focused and grounded your direction is, the more magnetic your presence becomes. When you begin leading with your vision, your values, your discipline, she senses it. She may test it, she may try to challenge your focus, but if you remain consistent, she respects it. Even if she doesn't say so out loud. Stoicism teaches this lesson over and over again. Marcus Aurelius didn't consult others for validation. He stayed true to his course. He once said, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." So ask yourself, what happens when you trade ambition for ease? You become replaceable. A man without a mission becomes emotionally dependent, reactive. He rises and falls based on her mood, and she senses that. Once she feels that her emotional fluctuations are steering your life, she loses something vital: respect. Let's look at a real story. Jordan, 45, was a high-level executive. He built a company from nothing. He met a woman in her mid-20s, brilliant, playful, stunning. She challenged him intellectually and emotionally. He was drawn in. They got close. But over time, Jordan began to change. He skipped business trips, restructured his mornings to match her late-night habits, delayed an important investment because things were getting serious. From the outside, it looked like love. But on the inside, Jordan was drifting. He lost focus, he lost his edge, and eventually, he lost her. Why? Because she stopped feeling his leadership. The version of him she was attracted to, the man with purpose, fire, direction, he had faded. Jordan had become a passenger in his own life. And that's the silent death of attraction. Not because you failed, but because you forgot what made you powerful in the first place. Never mistake love for surrender. If she's genuinely meant to be in your life, she won't try to derail your path. She'll want to walk beside you while you're already on it. She'll support your obsession with growth, not pull you away from it. And if she leaves because she wasn't put first, let her. Because a man who keeps building, who keeps moving, who doesn't shrink for love, he never runs out of options. But the man who sacrifices all that just to keep someone who doesn't value it, he ends up running out of himself. So stay on mission, wake up early, take the trip, launch the project, train when you don't feel like it, speak your truth. Even when she resists, let her feel the gravity of a man who does not bend for comfort. That's what inspires her. That's what keeps her close. That's what earns lasting respect. Comment below. I never leave my path. If you're done shrinking and ready to lead with purpose, and don't stop here, because what happens when you stop compromising your standards for temporary affection? It changes everything. 9. Let her feel the echo of your absence. There's a common and risky belief many older men carry into relationships with younger women. If I give her enough time, gifts, comfort, she'll stay. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't buy lasting attention. Not the kind that matters. You have to command it. Let's unpack that. When a man overextends, whether with expensive dinners, nonstop attention, or emotional caretaking, he's broadcasting a subtle but dangerous message. My worth is something outside of me. I have to give to be chosen. And when she senses that, she may stay, but not from desire. She stays because it's comfortable. And once a woman stays for ease instead of attraction, you've already lost her on a deeper level. Younger women, especially those with options, don't need a provider. They're not looking for a sponsor. They're searching for a signal. A signal that you don't just possess resources, you possess restraint. That you're not auditioning for her attention. That you draw it in naturally, through your posture, your pace, your energy, your purpose. That's what commands attention. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius never spoke of winning people over. He spoke of mastery of self. He said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That same truth applies here. Stop performing like the right man. Start embodying him. Commanding attention doesn't mean being loud or arrogant. It means you're so deeply rooted in who you are that she has no choice but to lean in and wonder what drives you. It means fewer words, stronger movements, and knowing your time is precious, even when you're alone. Let me give you an example. Dan, 50, meets a 27-year-old at a networking event. She's lively, beautiful, used to men fawning over her. Most guys offer gifts, flattery, favors. Dan doesn't. He sets plans that fit his life. He doesn't double text. He follows through, but never overreaches. She tests him, takes hours to respond, throws in a little attitude. Dan doesn't bite. He stays calm, playful, and grounded. And what happens? She starts chasing his time. Not because he gave more, but because he didn't need to. You command attention by building a life so full she'd be lucky to be invited in. You're not begging for her interest, you're giving her the chance to orbit your gravity. Comment below, I don't chase, if you're ready to stop proving and start living. And stick around, because once you stop performing for her attention, you awaken something in her she didn't even know she was craving. 10. Become unreachable. Not just unbothered, you've got years behind you, hard-earned lessons, pain, growth, failure, resilience. You carry depth, scars, perspective, inner strength that younger men simply haven't earned yet. And that depth is powerful. But here's the trap. Too many men give it away too fast. You meet a young woman. She's captivating, she smiles, she listens. And before you know it, you're laying your soul bare. Stories, beliefs, vulnerabilities, fears. You think this openness will create closeness, but often it just leaves you feeling exposed, and her feeling overwhelmed. Real connection doesn't come from how much you reveal. It comes from what she proves she can hold. You don't owe her your story. Not because she's attractive, not because she's asking, not even because she feels different. She may be sweet, curious, charming, but your inner world must be earned. Let her show emotional maturity. Let her show up with consistency. Let her work through her own triggers before you start unveiling yours. It's the same reason you don't hand the keys to a Ferrari to a teenager. Not because the Ferrari isn't valuable, but because they're not ready for the responsibility. Your wisdom, dropped too soon, becomes a lecture. Your passion, poured too quickly, feels like pressure. Make her earn access to your depth. That doesn't mean being cold or distant. You can still be warm, fun, present. But don't lead with your soul. Don't try to impress her with how deep you are. Let time and behavior reveal whether she's even meant to go there with you. The Stoics called this restraint, self-mastery. Seneca once said, "As is a tale, so is life." Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. Connection works the same way. It's not how fast it gets deep, it's how real it becomes once it does. And real depth can't be rushed. Let me give you an example. Mark, 53, meets a 29-year-old artist. First few dates, she dives in deep, asks about trauma, philosophy, childhood. Mark feels the pull to open up, but he doesn't. Not out of fear, but out of awareness. Instead of handing her his soul, he flips the script. How do you handle conflict? He watches not just her answers, but how she reacts when things don't go her way. Weeks pass. She shows consistency, emotional maturity, curiosity. Then he opens up. And this time it lands, because now she was ready. Now she had earned it. That's what makes your depth sacred. Not how much you share, but that not everyone gets access. Comment below, I protect my depth. If you're done handing your soul to anyone with a nice smile. If you're still here, you're not like most men. You're not chasing validation. You're not interested in surface-level games. You're here to lead, to grow, to master yourself. That's exactly what this channel is built for. If today's message struck something in you, subscribe now, not just to watch, but to walk alongside other men doing this work. And if you want to go deeper, access exclusive Stoic tools, deeper dives, and connect with a brotherhood of men who live by these values, join the Stoic Inner Circle. Links below. You'll feel the shift the moment you step in. Thanks for showing up today. And remember, you're not chasing her, you're building you. I'll see you right here tomorrow.